When Lewis Hamilton made the shock decision to leave Mercedes for Ferrari, the world stopped. It was the sporting equivalent of a seismic shift, a move that promised glory or guaranteed disaster. But what happened next was something nobody could have predicted. Not the fans, not the pundits, and certainly not Hamilton himself. After a year of torment, a year of questioning his very existence in Formula One, he finally stood on the top step of the podium in a Ferrari red suit. But here is the part of the story that doesn't make the highlight reels. In the moments after securing his first victory for the Scuderia, Hamilton admitted to a fear so profound it threatened to end his career. He revealed that he genuinely believed he had lost it, that the magic, the speed, the edge that made him a seven-time world champion had evaporated into the thin air of Maranello. The victory in Barcelona wasn't just a win, it was a resurrection. But how did the greatest driver of his generation go from calling himself absolutely useless to standing on the top step of the podium overcome with emotion? And more importantly, what happened during that dark winter that changed everything? Because according to those close to him, the situation was so dire that Ferrari insiders weren't sure if he would even show up for the 2026 season. Now, this isn't just a story about a race car driver winning a race. We have seen that before. This is a deep dive into the psychology of a champion, the pressure of a legacy, and the brutal reality of what happens when your mind turns against you. We're talking about a man who has won more than 100 Grand Prix, who has broken records that were thought to be unbreakable, and yet there he was, sitting in the garage wondering if he had made the biggest mistake of his life. The sheer weight of the Ferrari name, the Scuderia, is enough to crush even the strongest spirits. It is a team that lives and breathes victory, a team where second place is considered a failure. Hamilton walked into that environment expecting to conquer it, but instead it nearly consumed him. The Italian media, the passionate tifosi, the constant comparisons to legends like Michael Schumacher, it all created a pressure cooker that was ready to explode. And for a while, it looked like Lewis Hamilton was the one who was going to get burned. How do you go from dominating a sport to being unsure if you can even qualify for a race? That is the question that haunted him, and it is the question we are going to answer today. To understand the magnitude of this victory, you have to understand the depth of the fall. When Hamilton signed with Ferrari, the expectation was immediate success. He was supposed to bring the championship back to Maranello. Instead, he brought confusion. The 2025 season was a nightmare, a slog through the mud that saw him struggling with a car that didn't suit his driving style. It was a car that was unpredictable, a handful in the corners, and a disaster in qualifying. Hamilton, who was used to having a car that responded to his every command, suddenly found himself fighting the machine rather than driving it. He went from competing for pole positions to fighting just to get out of Q1. At one point, according to reports, he suffered 3 Q1 exits in a row. For a driver of his caliber, that is not just embarrassing, it is demoralizing. It is a public humiliation that plays out in front of millions of people. And it wasn't just the car, it was the culture. Ferrari is not just a team, it is a religion. The pressure from the Italian media is relentless. Every mistake is analyzed, every word is dissected, and every performance is compared to the legends of the past. Hamilton, who had spent years at the relatively stable and controlled environment of Mercedes, was suddenly thrown into the chaotic, passionate, and often brutal world of Italian racing. He struggled to adapt, he struggled to communicate, he struggled to find his place, and the results on the track reflected that struggle. He described his performances as useless and suggested that Ferrari should find another driver. This wasn't a man who had lost his talent. This was a man who had lost his confidence. He was a boxer who had forgotten to throw a punch. The lows were so bad that he admitted to seeing the negative press and letting it penetrate deeply. He's human after all, and the constant barrage of criticism, the whispers that he was washed up, that he was too old, that the move was a mistake, it started to get to him. One of the most significant revelations from this whole saga is the admission that Hamilton feared he had lost it. He said, "Sheesh, maybe it is true that, when you get to a certain point, you lose it." That single sentence speaks volumes about the mental state of a champion. It is the ultimate fear for any elite athlete, the fear that the clock has finally rung out, that the body and mind can no longer do what they used to do. Imagine being the best in the world at something, and then, suddenly, you can't do it anymore. It's a terrifying thought, and it's what drove Hamilton into a dark place. But here's where the story takes a turn, because Hamilton didn't give up, he didn't retire, he didn't walk away.
Instead, he did something that required immense courage and self-awareness. He hit the reset button. He unplugged from the matrix, as he called it. He turned off his social media, ignoring the noise and the negativity. He stopped listening to the critics and started listening to himself. He spent time with his family,
friends, the people who knew him before the fame, the people who never doubted him. But more than that, he put in the work. He described the training he did over the winter as harder than anything he had ever experienced. He rebuilt his body, and more importantly, he rebuilt his mind. He knew that the ability was still there, buried under the layers of doubt and frustration. He just had to dig it out, and he did. The victory in Barcelona was not just a win, it was a declaration. It was Hamilton telling the world, and more importantly, telling himself that he still had. It was the culmination of months of soul-searching, of hard work, and of unwavering self-belief. The race itself was a masterclass in racecraft and strategy. Ferrari went with an aggressive three-stop strategy, while Mercedes opted for a more conservative approach. It was a gamble, a high-risk move that could have backfired spectacularly, but Hamilton executed it perfectly. He drove with the precision and aggression of his prime, hunting down the Mercedes cars like a predator stalking its prey. Even when a virtual safety car gifted him a cheap pit stop, Mercedes admitted after the race that Hamilton likely would have beaten them anyway. He was that fast. He was that determined. What really stands out, though, is the emotion. When he crossed the finish line, the tears started to flow. He was overcome with joy, relief, and a sense of validation that he had been craving for 2 years. He jumped into the arms of his crew, a moment of pure, unadulterated happiness that resonated with fans around the world. This wasn't just another win for Hamilton. This was a victory for resilience, a victory for mental health, and a victory for anyone who has ever doubted themselves. It was a reminder that even the greatest among us can fall, but that we have the power to get back up. Toto Wolff, the Mercedes team principal who knows Hamilton better than almost anyone, said that the victory was partly down to the new regulations and the car suiting him better, but also down to the hard work he had put in. It was a testament to the fact that Hamilton hadn't just gotten lucky, he had earned it. But here's the thing that keeps this story interesting. The doubts might be gone for now, but the challenge is far from over. Hamilton is currently 41 points behind the championship leader, Kimi Antonelli. Mercedes is still the benchmark car, and they're not going to roll over. Hamilton himself admitted that there's still a lot of work to do. He knows that this victory is just a stepping stone, not the final destination. The season is long and the competition is fierce. But for one glorious Sunday in Barcelona, all of that didn't matter. What mattered was the vindication. What mattered was the proof that he could still do it. What mattered was the silence of the critics, and that is a powerful thing. Now, let's talk about the psychology of this turnaround. Hamilton's admission of self-doubt is a rarity in the world of elite sports. Usually, athletes project an aura of invincibility, a wall of confidence that is designed to intimidate opponents. But Hamilton was vulnerable. He was honest. He admitted that he was hurt by the criticism, that he was struggling, and that he had to work hard to get his mind right. That kind of honesty is refreshing. It is also incredibly powerful. It shows that mental strength isn't about never feeling doubt. It's about how you deal with it. Hamilton dealt with it by facing it head-on. He didn't run away from the problem, he tackled it. He sought support from his family, he put in the physical work, and he rebuilt his mindset from the ground up. He proved that you can teach an old dog new tricks, or in this case, an old champion a new way to think. The irony of the situation is that Hamilton's move to Ferrari was supposed to be a romantic fairy tale. It was the dream of a lifetime, the chance to drive for the most iconic team in Formula One history. But dreams can quickly turn into nightmares, and for a while, that's exactly what happened. The fairy tale became a horror story. But like any good story, the hero had to face his darkest moment before he could triumph. Hamilton faced that moment. He looked into the abyss and didn't blink, and now he's reaping the rewards. His victory in Barcelona was not just a win for Ferrari, it was a win for everyone who has ever felt like giving up. It was a message that it is never too late to turn things around. What makes this story so compelling is the contrast between the public persona and the private struggle. To the outside world, Lewis Hamilton is a global superstar, a fashion icon, and a dominant force in motorsport. But behind the scenes, he was a man wrestling with his demons. He was a man who was scared that he had lost his purpose. He was a man who was questioning everything he had achieved. And yet, he kept fighting. He kept pushing. He kept believing. That is the mark of a true champion. It's not about winning all the time. It's about how you react when you're losing. Hamilton reacted by digging deep and finding a strength he didn't know he had. There's also an interesting angle regarding his engineering team. Part of the struggle at Ferrari was adapting to a new race engineer, new processes, and a new way of doing things. At Mercedes, he had a long-standing relationship with his engineer, Peter Bonington. They knew each other inside out. At Ferrari, he had to start from scratch. It takes time to build that kind of trust.
Understanding. And in the high-pressure world of Formula One, time is a luxury you don't have. But Hamilton and his new team have clearly started to click. The strategy in Barcelona was a perfect example of that synergy. They took a risk, and it paid off. They trusted each other, and they won. That is the kind of chemistry that wins championships, and it is something that Ferrari has been missing for a long time. The reaction from the Italian press was, predictably, over the top. They hailed him as a timeless champion and celebrated him like a deity. The narrative shifted from Hamilton is washed up to Hamilton is a god. It is a fickle business, this sports journalism. But for Hamilton, the praise must have been sweet. It was a validation of his decision to stay, to fight, and to believe in himself. He has always been a polarizing figure, but you cannot deny his talent or his determination. He has proven time and time again that he is one of the greatest to ever get behind the wheel, and this victory only cemented that legacy. Now looking ahead, the question is, can he win the championship? It's a long shot, but it is not impossible. He has momentum on his side. He has the car, and most importantly, he has his confidence back. The gap to Antonelli is 41 points. That is a significant margin, but there are a lot of races left in the season. If Hamilton can string together a few more wins, he could be right back in the hunt. And what a story that would be. From the depths of despair to the heights of glory in the span of a single season. It would be one of the greatest comebacks in sporting history. And wouldn't that be something? A man written off by so many, proving that he still has what it takes to be the best in the world. It is a narrative that Hollywood would reject for being too cliché, but in the world of Formula One, it is a reality. Ultimately, this story is about more than just racing. It is about the human spirit. It is about the power of resilience. It is about the importance of mental health. It is about never giving up on your dreams, no matter how impossible they seem. Hamilton's journey is an inspiration to us all. It shows us that it is okay to struggle, it is okay to doubt, and it is okay to ask for help. What matters is that you keep moving forward, you keep fighting, you keep believing, and you never let the negative voices drown out the positive ones. That is the lesson from Barcelona. That is the lesson from Lewis Hamilton, and it is a lesson that will resonate far beyond the world of Formula One. The win also marks a historical symmetry. It came exactly 30 years after Michael Schumacher secured his first victory for Ferrari. Hamilton, who watched that race as an 11-year-old dreaming of a red cockpit, found himself overwhelmed by the reality of mirroring his idol. That is the stuff of legends. The universe has a funny way of creating these moments. The stars aligned in Barcelona, and Hamilton seized his moment. He soaked up the adulation of the tifosi, the passionate Italian fans who had waited so long for a moment like this. He listened to the Italian national anthem, and his heart exploded with joy. It was a moment of pure, unadulterated happiness, a moment that he will remember for the rest of his life, a moment that made all the pain and suffering of the previous year worth it. So, where does this leave us? We have seen a champion rise from the ashes. We have seen a man confront his deepest fears and overcome them. We have seen the power of hard work, determination, and self-belief. Hamilton's victory in Barcelona was a watershed moment in Formula One history. It was a reminder that the sport is not just about cars and technology. It is about the people behind the wheel. It is about their struggles, their triumphs, and their humanity. And in that regard, Lewis Hamilton is the ultimate human story. He is a man who has experienced the highest of highs and the lowest of lows, and he has come out the other side stronger than ever. That is why he's a legend. That is why he's the GOAT, and that is why we will never stop watching. But the question remains, what is next for this revitalized champion? Can he sustain this momentum? Can he chase down the young guns? Or was this just a momentary flash in the pan? Whatever happens, we will be watching, because in the world of Formula One, the drama never ends. We have to also give credit to Ferrari team principal Fred Vasseur. He was the one who believed in Hamilton when others were doubting him.
He was the one who pushed for the changes Hamilton requested. He created an environment where Hamilton could thrive, and that trust has been repaid with a victory. It's a testament to Vasseur's leadership and his vision for the team. He has taken a struggling Ferrari and turned them into winners again. And while the championship is still a long way off, this victory has given the team a massive boost in confidence. They know they can beat Mercedes. They know they have a driver who can deliver, and they know they have a car that can compete. That is a dangerous combination for the rest of the grid. The rest of the season is going to be fascinating. We have a battle on our hands, and we have a champion who is hungry for more.